Introducing the all-new Backsaver Swing Hopper Auger Mover. Backsavers have interchangeable parts which allows you easy access to move or swing your augers to fit your harvesting needs. Get yours today at Norwood Sales.
Our weed of the week is Swamp Smartweed. Don't get this one confused with Pennsylvania Smartweed. That Pennsylvania is an easy one to control. It's an annual. Swamp Smartweed is a perennial. So Darren, how are we going to stop it on our farm?
Well, anytime you have a perennial weed, we've got to think about that root system. It's one thing to say, you know, I've got an annual weed, I can fry the top growth off and not let it go to seed. That's great. But when you have a perennial weed, it can also reproduce through its rhizome. So it shoots runners out below ground. All of a sudden a new plant pops up, and here we go again. Now you say, well, I'll just use tillage. Well, tillage is going to chop those rhizomes up, but you're still going to pop new plants up all over, and you may even spread it more by doing tillage. So you've got to use a herbicide option that's going to get all the way down into that extensive root system and control it. So I'd recommend no tillage. That way you don't chop up the roots, they're all connected, and use a high rate of a product that's going to get down in the root system like Roundup.
Yeah, if you're going to use Roundup, we suggest the highest labeled rate, and that is a good herbicide to use, but what I always like to talk about is prevention of the weed in the first place. Swamp Smartweed thrives in wetter conditions, so do some tiling, improve your drainage, anything you can to raise a good crop there, and that good crop is going to choke out any Swamp Smartweed that might get started later in the season when you don't have the good crop growing.
You know, you talk about that, things are out of balance in the field. There's a problem that's created out there, and now that allows a weed to come in and take over instead of the crop that you're planting out there and doing everything right for, or at least you think you are. So get things under control in your field. As Brian mentioned, controlling the drainage. Then, hey, if you've got a weed problem out there, you can't wait for a drainage problem to get fixed over a few years. You've got to do something. Use a strong rate of Roundup, use the highest labeled rate, use the lowest amount of water allowed. That way you get a really concentrated spray in that particular area, and it'll do a fair job on Swamp Smartweed. Other things you can do that can burn off top growth would be Ignite does a nice job burning the top growth in Liberty Link crops or in a burn down situation. Also, Banvel can be used, or one of the dicamba products like Status in crop on corn. They do a nice job burning back the top growth at least, and then hopefully over a couple of years you can get those soil conditions fixed.
Well, that's it for our Weed of the Week, but stay tuned. Iron Talk is coming up next.